Michemo Afurakanu Afurakani Medinde Ojirafo Kwesi Ranham Pata Akan Aquamamine Maroka Tifi Mu Ojirafo Ojiraman Mu. That means greetings to all Afurakani people, meaning Africans, black people. My name is Ojirafo Kwesi Ranham Pata Akan. Ojirafo of the Akwamu Nation in North America, within Ojiraman, the purified nation, Afurakani people in the Western Hemisphere. So we have an update with regard to our institution. We have our OBARIMASEM Afurakani Manhood course. Now, some of you are aware that we taught that 13-week course from September to December in the first quarter of our new year. And then we taught that same 13-week course again from December to March. So we now have that course archived. So it is available, of course, to Afurakani people only. It is a 13-week course. There are 14 sessions within the 13-week course. Each session averages about 2 hours plus. We go over our book, Afurakani Manhood. We also go through the Passcodes curriculum. And then we also examine within that 14-week session 14 of our other books. We have published 31 books to date. We have more books coming out very soon. But we go through the Obarima book, Afurakani Manhood book, which is the foundation of the course, the Passcodes curriculum, which is a curriculum dealing with ancestral culture foundationally, and then we examine in detail 14 of our other books during that 14-week or 14-session course. So you get the course for 50% off. Originally, the 13-week course, 13 weeks is 91 days. So we had, the course was $91 for 91 days. All of the 16 books, the Manhood book, the Passcodes curriculum, and the other 14 books, the ebook versions are free downloads from our website. So you paid for the course, but you also, had access to the 16 free ebook downloads. Now that we have the archive course, as we always do with all of our other courses as well, on our website, but the archive version is 50% off the live course. So the archive version of the OBARIMASEM course, this 13-week course with 14 sessions, is $44. You still have access to all 16 of the ebook versions, which are free ebook downloads and so forth. Every Afurakani man, young adult, as well as men and so forth, have shown us and told us how intensive and how transforming this 13-week session has been for them. Every Afurakani male, becoming man, young adult, as well as older men and so forth, need to have a copy of our Obarima Afurakani Manhood book. And of course, we made that ebook a free book download, so it's not a barrier. Even if people don't have funds to purchase books at a particular time, they still need the information to transform every aspect of their lives, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, communally, politically, and nation-building wise with regard to the Afurakani and African Black nation. So go to our website, the Obarima page on our website. You can also go to the Akongwasuya page on our website, access the course. If you have any questions, of course, hit us up. And once again, Yerase, we thank you for supporting the work. And Yebeshia Bio, we will meet again. Heta. So as we talk about recognize the divine order of creation, the balance of male and female, first principle value of manhood. And we're going to go past the introduction. Now, we said that recognizing the divine order of creation, the balance of male and female, all of that proceeds from the foundational relationship of the great mother and great father, supreme being, which is Amenet and Amen. And so we have to put that image in our mind of seeing the great mother and the great father, Amenet and Amen, Inyamewa and Inyame, Olokun, Olorun, and so forth, no matter what group they come from. But the Afurakani man is an emanation of Amen or Nyame. The Afurakani woman is an emanation of Nyamewa Amenet. And of course, Amen and Amenet work together as two halves of the divine whole. And everything proceeds from that. So you have these various abosom forces in nature that manifest in male and female balanced relationships, whether it's Ra and Ra'et, or Ka and Ka'et, or Asar and Aset, Set, Nebet, Het, Ma'ah and Ma'at, Tahuti and Seshat. You go down the list, you will find the various divinities and their male and female counterparts. So everything proceeds from that. If we don't start with that balance of male and female in our thoughts, intentions, and actions, then everything we will engage in will be imbalanced to a certain degree. And that is critical for nation building. If people have been talking about nation building and nationalism or Pan-African nationalism, and their foundational principle was not the balance of male and female, we can even look back 100 years ago. Marcus Garvey was talking about God as a Negro. That was an improvement over, also worshiping the whites and their offspring and so forth. He didn't have the understanding of, he wasn't embracing his maroon ancestral culture or Obia and so forth. He didn't know about that. He was still involved in Christianity. He was trying to blacken it up to a certain extent, but still, imagine if instead of saying, and there were people practicing ancestral religion at the time. There were people in Jamaica as well as in North America who were practicing hoodoo and voodoo and juju and wanga and so forth. And we understood the great mother and great father supreme being, the mother, father, supreme being, the great mother and great father spirit and so forth. But imagine if you, instead of saying God is a Negro, he said God is a Negro, goddess is a Negro, God and goddess work together, the great black male and female divinity that we're all descended from. And we need to build structures that are not simply male-led and so forth, but they need to be a balance of male and female governmental structures and everything else. Now, he's had some of that in there, of course, but that patriarchal religion rooted in white pseudo so-called supremacy and building a foundation upon that, just like people involved in the Nation of Islam or any other group that's founded upon Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hebrewism, Hinduism, whatever it is, it's going to be imbalanced from the start. If it's not rooted in reality, our ancestral religious practices, which is a reflection of creation itself, then you start off with imbalance. It's like giving someone a diet plan and not understanding what certain vitamins and minerals you give them, and then other ones you just totally neglect. But you fill them up on certain vitamins and minerals, and say you neglect vitamin B and vitamin D, but you fill them up on vitamin A and C and E and K and everything else. And, people are working out and everything else, but at some point that vitamin B deficiency manifests. And as we've talked about before, and you can study what happens when someone has a deficiency of vitamin B, it can manifest the same symptoms of what is considered depression. And some people are diagnosed with clinical depression or major depressive disorder, and they're put on medication and everything else. But then they found years ago that if people are deficient in vitamin B, the B vitamins, then that will manifest as depression. And all they have to do is, get to the proper level, consume the proper level, and maintain the proper level of B vitamins. And those symptoms that manifest as quote unquote depression disappear because they were really never depressed. They just were lacking in a certain, vitamins and minerals and so forth. So if you put people on a path dietarily for, health and wellness and longevity and so forth, and they're on that diet, they're working out, they're feeling fine, but at some point, because they have deficiencies, it's going to manifest. So you see someone who works out, they're muscular, they're vibrant and so forth, but then they start suffering from quote unquote depression. And they can't see why they're suffering from depression or what they believe is depression. They're healthy, they don't have any diseases, they don't have any, high blood pressure or anything like that. They have a business, it's doing well, they make a lot of money, they have their own, school, they're raising their children in an independent school and so forth, all these different things, but then they're manifesting depression. And they don't understand it's becoming a problem for the family and so forth. They're going to therapists. Then they get medication that makes it even worse because they started off imbalanced, and the imbalance is going to manifest. When we look at the various movements that we've generated in this country over the past 100+ years, those that are rooted in Christianity, Islam, Judaism, secular nationalism, atheism and so forth, socialism, all these theories, social theories and pseudo-religious practices coming from the whites and offspring, you start off imbalanced. And at some point, no matter how good the intentions are, the imbalance manifests. Specifically early on with the way women are treated or the duties that they're relegated to in these organizations, they're never prominently led. Instead of a king and a queen, mother, ohini, ohima, male and female balance, it was always a male leading and so forth. And then the women had, lower roles. That creates dissension and so forth. They can't contribute things that would help organize and balance out the expression of the nation building activity. So we have to start from reality. Now, those who practice ancestral religious, expressions like hoodoo and juju and so forth that weren't infected with Christianity, Islam, white culture, those are the individuals who, of course, escaped from enslavement, built independent towns and so forth, hundreds of independent towns that lasted from just that pre-civil, the end of the Civil War, after the Civil War, for the next 100, 120, 130 years, and some of those black towns still exist. But they did what they were supposed to do. They escaped from enslavement, some of them after enslavement was over, some of them with the great migration up north and so forth, millions of people leaving the South, going to different areas. Some people went to industrial cities and so forth. Some people decided, grounded by their ancestral religious practices, the ancestresses and ancestors, to establish independent black towns, hundreds of them. They built their own towns, grew their own food, procured their own medicine, made their own clothes and so forth. We don't read about those people because they were successful and they maintained them for decades upon decades, some over a century. So that's the model that we need to build upon. And it's rooted in this balance of male and female. So that's what we deal with first. If you don't have that perception, then you don't seek to, reflect that. So we give some details about that. And we talk about, the balance of male and female, earth and sky, fire and water and so forth, divine law, love, and divine hate, which is critical. Of course, we have our book of Madanachi, divine law, love, and divine hate, order and non-order. So you've read that portion, what we're dealing with that, but that's the foundational piece. Now, when we get to the second principal value, this is where we also begin to incorporate what we were talking about earlier with regard to the Honam Su. So once you recognize the divine balance of male and female and you perceive that, then the second piece is you seek to establish that balance in every aspect of your existence. So you have to know it first, know what you're looking at, know what's going on, how creation is structured, and then you establish that in every aspect of your existence. Now, so we say physically, you make sure that you put the right things in your system. With regard to diet for your health and well-being, you make sure that you eliminate waste and toxins from your system on a regular basis within the natural cycle. Make sure you strengthen yourself through exercise and rejuvenate yourself through sleep. Make sure that you engage in ejuma work in order to benefit yourself and those connected to you, and you make sure that you engage in rest and recreation. We're talking about balancing expansion and contraction, all areas of life. Too much water will drown you. Not enough water will leave you dehydrated. Too much food will lead to obesity, disease. Not enough food will lead to malnourishment. Overworking can lead to stress. Not working manifests laziness, disorder, and deterioration of the spirit mind. So we're talking about balance in all aspects of existence. And then we talk about spiritually, you must recognize that what you ingest affects your thoughts and behavior in the same manner that what you physically ingest affects the behavior of the organs and organ systems in your body. Establishing the balance of male and female in your spirit centers on your ability to balance the fiery emotions and the watery emotions and the various temperaments in between. And then we show talk about the effects of what can happen if you don't do that. Now, balancing the spiritual aspects of your spiritual anatomy. Now we want to go into the spiritual anatomy. So we talked about balancing these things, but how do you do that? Of course, through ritual, through susuho meditation, through ritual, libation, going to the Nkomere, the shrine, and so forth. You engage the ritual practice, communing with your Kra. That's when you start moving in that direction. But now we want to give more details because as we said earlier, the more details you have about your spiritual anatomy and the forces of nature, the abosom, the more informed you are and the better decisions you can make on a regular basis. So let's go to that. So first, we talked about establishing balance in every aspect of your life. We talked about activities, work and rest and everything else. But then the spiritual balance, if we don't establish spiritual balance, then everything else doesn't matter. When you look at organizations and they end up having infighting and so forth, and because of people's emotions, they can't solve problems and so forth because people are immature or self-destructive and so forth, they haven't balanced themselves. It doesn't matter if you understand principles, you need to engage in a ritual process to purify yourself so you can realign your thoughts, intentions, and actions with order. First, you have to identify those different aspects of yourself. So we talk about the Ba, the Ka, the Aku, the Ab, Hati, Sahu, Kahaiben, and Sao. But those are also related to the abosom of the 7 days of the week. And that's the difference that we haven't talked about in the book. So first, Anim, skin of human beings or animals, hide, pelts, and so forth. Flesh, the skin. So the way that's pronounced in Akan is Enam, flesh, meat of any animal. The flesh or soft, pulpy substance of fruit and so forth. But it's the flesh, including our flesh. When we say Enam, that means skin or flesh in Akan. That is Enam in ancient Kemet, the same term. You'll also see that the determinative symbol is the fish for Enam, so flesh, but then also fish. And then you'll see in Akan, flesh, but then it says fish as well. So there's a relationship there. Now, so that's the physical body. That's why we say Honam. Hun means self, and Nam means flesh. So it's the flesh, self, or the physical body. So Honam and Honam Su means the physical body, the flesh body, and so forth. And then Su means the essential nature. So it's talking about the nature, the spiritual anatomy. So we're talking about instead of the physical, just the physical body, we're talking about the spiritual anatomy, the spiritual body, and the full spiritual anatomy. Now we're going to start off with the term for soul, which is Ka, Ka for females. And why are we starting off with that? If you go to the Akradin Bosom link,